civil rights ever since I got out of high school. My first job when I graduated, didn't tell you, I graduated from Sioux City High School, where I was active in sports, music, played in the band, sung in a cappella choir. But my first job, in my class book, I have to tell you, each of us had to come up with an expression what our motto would be. My motto was finishing to begin, never realizing, they never told me that that's what was going to be used as the motto until after I graduated. And I was voted the most likely to succeed in the class. It's a strange thing, the twist that life brings to you. It took blindness, though I was in church every Sunday morning, every Wednesday evening, every Friday night. I knew of God, but I didn't know God. Today people will tell you God is dead. God is not dead, it's us. We are dead to Him. And having lost my sight when I was a young man, student at Wayne State Teachers College, my second year, I had the privilege of being the chef, because the railroad chef that I trained under, who had a PhD, could not teach because the system would not allow it. He taught me about food and food preparation. And so when he had a massive heart attack, he had told the hostess that I could handle anything they threw at me. And they threw a big banquet of 1,200 teachers and principals and superintendents of school. And got a number of compliments on the meat. They could cut it with a fork. But in going to college myself, I had an advisor that I despise to this day, because all he talked about is, you're a black man, blacks are good at cooking, blacks are good at music. You need to change from pre-med to one of those two. And I was bullheaded. And bullheadedness has carried me to where I'm at. You asked me a question earlier and I didn't answer you. What has been my highest achievement? I've had a number of them. I've served on 15 boards in this city. Not for what it would get me, but what it would make it better, and that we would have somebody in the pool that has something to say about what goes on with us. I happen to be the chairman or president of the advisory group when the 3 high schools we have now are functioning west, north, and east. Part of my job was to help the committee to come to a consensus of equality in what's offered in each of the schools, the sizes of each of the schools, so that whites could not go to one school over another school. The racial balances, the locations of those things. I had a hand in that. That's one of the accomplishments that I'm proud of, even though it was always thrown up to me by the school board. That you're doing this because you're getting something out of it. I never got anything out of it. Yes, my kids went to North. They took advantage of the transfer policy. But I took my kids to school. They didn't ride the city buses. I made sure they got there. I made sure they got out. My kids were both musically inclined because my grandparents were musically inclined. My grandparents on both sides, my wife and myself, our grandfathers, could pick up any instrument and play it. I have a daughter that's been to Europe 5 times. The woman gets a few more breaks than the man. But you have to watch how you carry yourself, because the black woman was first to white man. Yes, he had a white wife, but the mistress was always there in the background. I listened to a commentary on, if you watched Africa, Blacks in America, I looked at the faces of most of those blacks who were prominent. Most of them worked in the house. They were the housemaid, or the house butler, whatever you want to call them. They took advantage of the brain knowledge. I have worked for Goodwill Industries. Having been blind, all attributes to this. Because I was blind I went blind my third semester of college in Wayne State. And the professor asked me, he said, Bluford, what did you, about the test, he says, what did you think of the test? I said, it wasn't a bad test. I said, but when I read, after answering the questions, I reread it, reread all the tests I take. And I said, I must be losing my sight because the second time reading was not the same as the first. But I didn't change any of my answers. And he said, oh, you didn't study. And I laughed and I said, yes, I did. And during the time of my blindness, the president of Wayne State Teachers College came to my home. And he said, I'm supposed to give you a message. Your botany test that the professor thought you hadn't studied for, you got a B+ in it. And I found that interesting. The other thing, my greatest accomplishment, that was one of the questions you asked, the last question you asked me, was receiving, having worked for Goodwill Industries for 41 years, I've committed my life to helping handicapped and disadvantaged, because for a long period of time, it was rare to find a handicapped person get a job. And I've been instrumental in breaking it open so that handicap of any ethnic group has the opportunity. And as a result of my work, I drive a fancy black car. It's not a brand new car. It's a presidential town car, as they call it. The owner tells me, or the dealer tells me, that he was offered by three men, 25 grand for that car. He let me have it because he'd been following my life for 25 years. And his wife is confined to a wheelchair, and he let me have it for $11,000. I just said, that's God's gift to me. That's a gift. But my greatest award, you're still wondering about that, is having received the gift Goodwill gives every year to the top CEOs of the company, Organization International. It gives the Founders Award to that top CEO. This year they opened it up to the senior staff. I am the first to receive it. Received it on the 29th of July of this month. Not this month, June, of June. I received it in Indianapolis, where I took my first training. I made the complete cycle back to Indianapolis, where the headquarters is for the Ku Klux Klan. Yes.
Congratulations on that.
It's an international trophy. I've got it in my car. I said, maybe I shouldn't bring it in, but maybe I should go get it in a few minutes when you're finished with me, so that you can see what is possible to have Goodwill Industries International Edgar J. Helms Award awarded to Grady Bluford. And it was something to behold. There were 10 awards given the night that I received mine. Mine was the first one. The standing ovation I received. My daughter tells me it was the longest standing ovation. She told me I went 5 seconds over my time limit of 3 minutes that I was given to talk. Several other people said, we thought you were going to preach to us, but we could have listened all night to you preach. But that was correct. That was my greatest accomplishment to date. Yes.